A man raised his son all by himself. A woman had quietly walked away years ago, and one rainy night, what they thought was a coincidence turned out to be fate. This is not just the story of a mother who was lost. It's the story of a family being rebuilt. That night, the rain didn't feel like it was falling from the sky. It felt like it was pouring from inside Helena. Water spilled over her thin heels, blurring the line between earth and sky. Everything around her was silent, like the streets of an abandoned town. Black streaks of mascara mixed with her tears as they ran down her face. And right there, in front of the old ATM, something else broke. Her card. Transaction failed, kept flashing on the screen, straight into her eyes. The woman who owned billion-dollar investment funds, who raised her hand in meetings across continents, couldn't even withdraw $50. And it was happening in this little town she hadn't set foot in for 6 years. 2 blocks away, her rental car had broken down. Her phone had fallen in the mudscreen black. In the middle of all this mess, Helena Valdez wasn't just facing a machine anymore. She was facing a broken mirror of the past she'd left behind. Headlights caught her face in a harsh beam as a rusty but running pickup truck slowed down beside her. The window rolled down. A man with a beard and deep, tired eyes, but a warm look, sat behind the wheel. "Need some help?" he called out, his voice rising above the rain. Helena could only meet his eyes for a few seconds. But those few seconds were enough to summon the ghost from 6 years ago. She gripped the shiny, now meaningless card in her hand, then gave a small nod. Maybe fate loved dramatic scenes like this, but all Helena could feel at that moment was her knees shaking. The man stepped out of the truck. His soaked work shirt clung to his body, rain dripping from his hair. "I live nearby," he said. "You're welcome to come in and warm up. You can use the phone, too." Helena didn't know who she was accepting help from yet, but there was something in his voice, that tired but honest tone, something she hadn't heard in years. His name was Elias Brandt. He was 38, and the grease stains on his hands didn't speak of the past, they spoke of the weight of today. He was a mechanic, worked in a small garage he built himself in this town. For 6 years, he'd been waking up every morning at 5 to make breakfast for his son Leo, comb his hair, pack his school bag, and then head to work. And every night, no matter how exhausted, he never went to bed without listening to Leo's day. Leo had just turned 7 last month, and on his birthday cake, there were only 2 figures, him and his dad, because all the other figures in their life were missing, especially one, the one they hadn't spoken of in years. When they arrived at Elias's house, Helena didn't recognize it, of course, but once she'd made plans there, dreamed there. Elias brought her up to the porch, handed her a towel. The moment they stepped inside, a small voice rang out. "Daddy, you're late today." Helena flinched. A curly-haired little boy came running through the door, holding a big plush toy over his pajamas. His eyes were on his dad, but then they turned to Helena, full of curiosity. "Who's this lady?" Elias caught Helena's hesitation. "This is Helena. Her car broke down. She's staying a little while." Leo walked up to her, tilted his little head, and studied her face. "Your hair is really pretty, but it's wet. I can dry it if you want," he said with innocent kindness. Helena smiled, but her eyes were already filling up. While they sat in the kitchen, Leo pulled colorful drawings from his backpack. Monsters, castles, and one more. Helena's hand trembled. A man, a boy, and a faceless woman. Underneath it was written, "My mom will find me one day." When she looked at Leo again, it wasn't just a child she saw. It was the embodiment of lost years, buried feelings, and suppressed motherhood. But Elias wasn't ready to face that truth. Helena was still a stranger to him. The woman who had walked away 6 years ago without a word, leaving just a note behind. A note Elias still kept in his pocket. It only had 2 sentences. "I can't do this. Please love him." The weight inside Helena had become too heavy to carry, but it wasn't the right time. Elias hadn't come close enough to reopen that wound. But when Helena stepped through that door again, she realized this wasn't just about finding shelter. It was about grabbing hold of the past and walking toward the future. And outside, the rain was still falling. But this time, she wasn't alone. As the night wore on, the warmth inside the house didn't just touch Helena's frozen body, it started to reach deep into her heart. While Elias was preparing something in the kitchen, Leo sat next to Helena, chatting away like he'd known her for years. Bursting into laughter, he said, "At school, a leaf gave me gum, but I swallowed it before the teacher saw." A smile spread across Helena's face without her even realizing it. That boy's voice was tearing her apart and putting her back together all at once. But what really caught her attention in that moment was the familiar expression on Leo's face, the shape of his chin, the way his eyebrows lifted. It was like looking in a mirror. Her instincts had been right. Leo was her son, and she didn't need proof, she just knew. Elias came back from the kitchen holding 2 mugs. Hot chocolate with marshmallows. Leo's rainy day ritual. 3 marshmallows, no more, no less, he said, making Leo grin. Helena thanked him, though her throat was tight. In a scene so ordinary and so full of warmth, such a heavy truth was hiding. The life they once dreamed of around this table had now been built without her. And Helena was sitting in a place she didn't feel she deserved to be part of. A while later, Leo said he was sleepy. As Elias took him to bed, Helena sat on the edge of the couch, her hands frozen around the mug. The only sound breaking the silence of the living room was the faint tapping of the wind against the window. When Elias returned, he noticed something in Helena's eyes, not tiredness, but something breaking. The woman who once stared down crowded boardrooms and international summits was now undone by a child's drawing. "You okay?" Elias asked. There was both concern and a boundary in his voice. Helena nodded slowly. "Sometimes it's just easier to pretend you're okay." Elias sighed. Leo's mom was like that too. She kept everything in when things got hard. And eventually, she left. Helena felt her heart stop for a second. Hearing her own story told by someone else, it was surreal. She realized that over time, she'd become a stranger to the version of herself he was talking about. Maybe life's irony was this. Elias had no idea she was still alive, sitting just a few feet away from him. "She left a note," Elias said. His voice sounded flat, but the lines near his eyes showed that underneath the cool tone, the wound still bled. "She left our son with me, but she never explained why. No call, no letter. She just vanished." Helena lowered her head. She wasn't ready for this conversation. Not yet. But she wanted to explain why she wrote that note. The fear that gripped her hand that morning. The look in her father's eyes when he said, "You either give him up or lose everything." But it wasn't time yet. Trust hadn't been built. One wrong sentence could ruin everything forever. "I guess some people get so broken they think they can never come back," she said, her voice barely a whisper. Elias looked at her, but he couldn't read her expression. That night, Elias prepared the couch for her. As he handed her a pillow and some blankets, he said, "Sorry, the guest room's kind of like a storage closet. I was fixing it up for Leo, but I never finished." Helena nodded. "Honestly, more than a roof over my head is already more than enough for tonight." Elias paused before leaving. "I think Leo liked you," he said. "He doesn't warm up to people easily." Helena sighed. "I liked him too." That made Elias raise his eyebrows. It was a little too intimate for someone who was technically a stranger. But that night, he didn't ask anything else. He just said, "Good night," and went to his room. Helena pulled the blanket over her knees, but her eyes wouldn't close. That cursed note she'd been forced to write years ago flashed in her mind. Her father's voice pressing down on her. "I won't let that kid ruin your life. You either give him up, or you lose everything." That threatening look. And then grabbing the pen, writing the note, sneaking into the house in silence. Sitting by Leo one last time until morning. All of it wasn't just a memory of pain now, it was still a weight she carried, still very much alive inside her. In the morning, Leo's footsteps echoed through the kitchen. "I'm making breakfast," he shouted. Helena, eyes heavy with no sleep, got up. Elias wasn't there, probably in the shower. Leo had climbed up on the kitchen chair, trying to open the toaster. Helena stepped in. "Hold on, let me help." "What are we making?" Leo smiled. "My dad makes me the kitchen boss on Tuesdays. It's a special day. We have a guest." Helena bent down to his level. "For me?" "Yeah. It's a day a lot like my mom's birthday," he said. Helena's heart ached. "Do you remember your mom?" Leo nodded. "No, but sometimes I see her in my dreams. She doesn't have a face, but she has yellow hair. And she smells like flowers." Helena held her breath for a moment. Did he remember her scent? The lavender oil she used while nursing him 6 years ago? "That's a beautiful dream," Helena said. "I think she sends me those dreams. I don't know where she is, but I know she's in my heart." Just then, Elias walked into the kitchen. Helena quickly turned her back to him. But now she knew. Her place in Leo's heart was still there. And it was up to her to find the right moment to hold on to it without breaking the quiet bond they'd begun to rebuild. One more thing was becoming clear. Helena was no longer just a shadow from the past. She had a place now in Leo's reality. And before Elias's doubt could fade away, she would have to give him all the answers. A new storm was coming. But this time, one of them wasn't going to run. That morning, after dropping Leo off at school, Elias headed to the workshop. As he opened the rusty metal door of the auto repair shop, last night's conversation was still echoing in his mind. Helena. She was a stranger, but the way she connected with Leo so quickly it was starting to make Elias uneasy. His heart was trying to avoid stirring up the ghosts of the past, but his mind was screaming that there was something too familiar about her presence. Every time he looked into her eyes, he started asking himself the same questions he had the night she left that note. Why does a mother leave quietly one morning? Why does she disappear without a trace? Getting lost in the roar of engines helped Elias. The grease on his hands was like a barrier against the confusion in his head. But that morning, Helena walked through the door. She wore a simple coat and held a coffee. So, any news on the car? She asked. Elias took off his gloves and walked toward her. It still hasn't been towed in. Helena lowered her head slightly. Actually, after what you said last night, I tried to bring it myself, but the engine still won't start. I thought maybe you'd want to take a look. Elias looked at her with suspicion. You brought it in yourself? Yes, Helena said, avoiding his eyes. I have things to do this morning. Elias grabbed his keys. All right, let's take a look. They walked to the back of the workshop where Helena's car was parked. Elias popped the hood and reached for the engine. Within seconds, he spotted the problem. Some connections had been deliberately disconnected. He looked up. This engine didn't just break down. Someone did this. Helena said nothing. Elias looked straight into her eyes. Did you sabotage your own car? She didn't answer, and that was answer enough. Elias stepped back. Why would you do that? Just to stay here. Her voice was quiet, but steady. Yes. Elias froze. Why? Helena knew the moment had come. If she didn't speak, she might forever be forced to watch Leo from the outside. But everything couldn't fit into one sentence. Still, she had to begin. I'll tell you everything, Elias. But please, just give me a chance. Watch me with Leo. Watch how I talk to him. How I play with him. I didn't come here by accident. I know who he is. Elias's chest tightened. What do you know? Helena looked him straight in the eyes. Leo is my son. It was as if every sound in the world stopped. The ticking engine, the rain hitting metal, even the wind's howl, all of it disappeared. Elias took a step back. His face didn't just show anger. It held pain, confusion, betrayal. You, he said slowly, you're Leo's mother? Helena nodded. I changed my name, and my last name, my whole life. But this is who I am, Elias. That morning, I didn't write that note because I wanted to, I was forced to. Elias's voice trembled. Who forced you? Helena closed her eyes. My father, Ricardo Valdez. Wealthy, cold, ruthless. He never accepted me being with you. When he found out I was pregnant, he gave me two options. Either leave you and the child, or spend the rest of my life at war. He would have taken everything. Destroyed you. Taken Leo. Elias held his head in his hands. So that note, those words, they weren't mine. The pen was in my hand, but the words came from his mouth. Silence filled the garage. Then Elias turned back to Helena. Why now? Why after 6 years? Why didn't you ever reach out to Leo? Helena's throat tightened. Because my father died. In his will, he wrote that if I ever contacted you or Leo, I would lose everything I built, my foundations, my companies. I created a foundation that funds research for childhood diseases. Thousands of kids are alive today because of that funding. I would have had to give all of that up. Elias's eyes were shining, but no tears fell. And now I've lost everything, Helena said. But maybe I've gained one thing. If you'll let me. Elias turned his back to her and walked toward the door. I won't tell Leo. Not yet. This isn't a game to him. Helena didn't move. It's not a game to me either. Elias paused, leaning against the door. That guest room. It's empty now. Last week Leo said he wanted to start sleeping in his own bed. You can stay there tonight. But in the morning, I'll decide. I decide what happens next in this story. Not you. Helena nodded. Fair. Before leaving, Elias turned back one more time. One more thing. Leo. He's a very pure kid. Once he loves someone, he doesn't let go easily. If you're lying, if this is some kind of game, I won't forgive you. Helena looked him in the eyes. No, Elias. This is the most real I've ever been. And in that moment, for the first time in years, something inside Elias started to shift. But there was still so much left to uncover. That night, Helena didn't sleep in the guest room, she slept in the shadow of the past. On the walls, Leo's toys resting on newly installed shelves, his hand-drawn pictures in homemade frames, and the wooden desk built by Elias offered her a broken glimpse of the life she had never gotten to live. Everything was simple, but filled with sincerity. Even the cracks in the ceiling felt like signs of belonging to a home. She woke up around midnight, after dreaming of baby Leo asking her, "Why did you leave me?" She had answered that question to herself 100 times, but saying it out loud to Elias, to Leo, even to her own heart, was a whole different battle. In the morning, the house echoed with Leo's voice. "I'm making breakfast." Elias, on the other hand, was quiet. When Helena went downstairs, she found Leo climbing onto a stool, wrestling with the toaster buttons. She stepped in to help. "Today's my kitchen duty again," Leo said proudly. "But it's cool that you're helping. I liked how you cut the strawberries like flowers." Helena smiled softly, leaning down. "Then you be the chef, and I'll be your helper." As they made breakfast together, Elias stood silently in the hallway corner, watching. The way Helena looked at Leo held the intuition of a mother. And Leo's ease around her was something that didn't come easily. A question had been growing heavier in Elias's mind with every passing hour. Was she really telling the truth? Was it really her? After breakfast, Elias took Leo to school. Helena was alone. While walking through the living room, she noticed a box sitting on one of Elias's bookshelf shelves. It was small, with metal edges and a bit of rust. She didn't open it, but handwritten on the lid was, "Leo Firsts." Fighting her curiosity, her eyes wandered to a drawing on the wall, a family portrait. 3 figures. One was Elias, one was Leo, and the third was a woman with no face. She had blonde hair, but a question mark where her mouth should have been. Below it was written, "My mom will find me again one day." That was the moment she decided. She would show Elias everything. Not just words, documents, memories, traces. She had to explain that the past he thought she abandoned had actually been a prison. The silence was too destructive now, and she couldn't risk losing anything else. That evening, when Elias returned home, Helena was waiting for him on the porch. She held an envelope in her hands. Elias sat down without a word, never taking his eyes off her. "This," Helena said, "is the paperwork my father had drawn up before he died. The foundation, the inheritance, all the restrictions placed on me. It's all here." And, her eyes filled with tears, "There's also documentation of a trust fund I secretly created for Leo after he was born. I kept it hidden from my father. No one knew." Elias didn't take the envelope. "You can't buy your conscience with money. I did it for Leo, not for myself." "But you still left," Elias said. "When I held him in my arms, he had no mother. When he cried, it was me who heard him. When he had a fever, I stayed up all night." Helena lowered her head. "I know, and that's why I'm jealous. You know him. I don't. But I didn't abandon him. I was taken away. That was the only path I could choose if I wanted to survive." Elias stood up. "That might be an explanation, but it's late." Just then, Leo's voice rang out from inside. "Dayawat, I finished my drawing." He came running out, handing the paper to Helena. "Look, this is us." There were 3 figures, a man, a boy, and now a woman with a face. She had blonde hair and a big smile. At the top, it read, "My mom came back." Elias's heart felt like it was going to explode. Helena couldn't touch the drawing. She felt like it might break if she did. Leo looked up at her. "Are you going to leave again?" Helena looked straight into his eyes. "No, I'm not leaving. If your dad lets me. I want to stay." Leo turned to his father. "Please, Dad. She's not a guest anymore." Elias's face stayed frozen, but his eyes were full. That night, after Leo went to bed, Elias returned to the porch. He had the envelope in his hand this time. It was open. "I read everything," he said, "and I want to believe you. But those years, Leo's first words, his first steps, his first fall, you weren't there." Helena nodded. "That's why I'm not asking for a second chance. I just want to walk beside you. Just let me get to know my son." Elias stayed quiet for a long moment. Then he reached into his pocket and pulled out a small key. It was the key to the guest room. You're not just stepping into a room, Helena. You're stepping into a real test. This won't be easy. Helena took the key. Then let it be hard. Just let me stay this time. That night, the rain started again. But no one was getting wet anymore. Because the doors had begun to open, the past was unraveling, and the truth finally was being spoken. For more than a week now, Helena wasn't a guest anymore. Nights spent reading bedtime stories in Leo's room, shared ice creams on the walk back from school, and those big, bright smiles Elias kept catching from the corner of his eye. The atmosphere in the house had changed, but that change had started a battle inside Elias. His heart wanted to beat beside Helena's, but his mind kept reminding him of the wounds of the past. The exhaustion of raising a child alone for years, the shame of being abandoned, and the silence he spoke into late at night, those things didn't heal easily. At night, Elias would step out onto the porch, light a cigarette, and watch the light in Helena's room. He couldn't shake the truths lying behind that glow. Even if everything Helena said was true, he still had doubts in his heart. And those doubts would eventually come at a cost. On Saturday morning, Leo was quiet at breakfast. He didn't touch his eggs, chewed his bananas half-heartedly. Helena noticed. "Is something wrong, sweetheart?" she asked. Leo shrugged. "There was no school today, but I was supposed to go to the lake with my friend Bruno. He went with his mom. My mom never came before, and now she's not going either." Helena's heart tightened. "Well, what if we go today instead? Just you and me." Leo's eyes lit up. "Really? But Dad." Elias looked up. "Yeah, you can go, but only up to the small dock. Don't go past it. And keep your phone on you, Helena. Signal gets weak out there." Half an hour later, Helena and Leo arrived at a small meadow by the lake, backpacks, sandwiches, and a few crayons in tow. Leo talked nonstop, describing frogs leaping across the water, the sounds in the woods. As Helena listened, she couldn't stop the emotions stirring inside her. Every passing minute revealed something new about her son. She tried to repair the lost years with these small moments. But that piece cracked that afternoon. When Helena turned to grab water from Leo's backpack, he was gone. "Leo," she called out. No answer. She ran to the lake's edge in panic. Footprints were pressed into the mud, leading into the woods. Helena grabbed her phone quickly, no signal. "Leo, Leo, please answer me." She dashed into the woods, branches hitting her face, feet sinking into the muck. Her heart was in her throat. She couldn't breathe, couldn't stay balanced. Time felt like it had frozen. A woman who had spent her life helping others had now lost track of her own son. 10 minutes later, she heard a faint voice behind a tree. "It hurts." Helena ran toward the sound and found Leo on the ground, his ankle swollen. Tears were streaming down his face. "I tried to catch the frog, but I slipped." Helena scooped him up immediately. "It's okay, sweetheart. I'm here now. I'm not going anywhere." But Leo kept crying. "Dad's gonna be mad. I promised. I always get lost. Just like Mom." Helena's heart shattered. "You're not lost, Leo. I found you, and I'm never leaving again." She managed to carry him all the way back. When they arrived home, drenched in sweat, Elias opened the door. It only took him a second to understand what happened. As he took Leo into his arms, he looked Helena up and down. "What happened?" "He slipped in the woods. No signal. I was alone," Helena said, her voice shaking. Elias didn't respond. He just carried his son to his room, brought back an ice pack and bandages. But his face remained blank, the pressure in his chest held tight. That night, after Leo fell asleep, they sat on the porch. Elias lit a cigarette, but didn't look at Helena. "I trusted you with him, and you didn't take care. I didn't leave him. I turned my back for just 1 second, and..." Elias turned. His eyes hurt for the first time. "Just like 6 years ago. You turned your back again." Helena was silent. "I know, and I won't let it happen again." Elias buried his head in his hands. "You're his mother. I can't deny that anymore. But how do I trust you, Helena? How do I know you won't just disappear again tomorrow morning?" Helena pulled a paper from her pocket. She placed it in front of him. "The foundation is officially being transferred. It was signed today. I have nothing left now. Just Leo. And maybe one day you." Elias looked at the paper. He saw that everything Helena once had was now gone. And maybe, just maybe, she was trying to reclaim the one thing that truly mattered. But he needed one more night. And by morning, everything would change. Morning arrived with an unexpected silence. Inside the house, it felt like everyone was holding their breath, caught in a moment where the past and future were about to collide. Helena sat alone in the kitchen, warming her hands around a cup of tea, her mind still stuck in Elias's gaze from the night before. He hadn't exactly not believed her, but did he have the courage to forgive? That, she didn't know. Elias didn't return after dropping Leo off at school. Helena stayed alone in the house until noon. She walked through the rooms, touched the stillness of the living room, looked at Leo's half-finished drawings on his desk. In one of them, a kite was flying up into the sky. Underneath, only this was written: "My mom isn't the wind anymore. She's here." As the clock approached 3 in the afternoon, Elias finally opened the door. He had an old envelope in his hand. When Helena looked into his eyes, she knew he had made a decision. "This belongs to you," Elias said, handing her the envelope. She opened it. Inside was the original letter she had written 6 years ago. The paper was yellowed, the ink faded in places. But the words still hurt. "I can't do this. Please love him." Helena couldn't hold back her tears. This was the sentence that burned me the most. Because writing it felt like everything inside me died. Elias didn't look away. "But you still wrote it. That's why I hated you for years. Every time I saw your faceless figure in Leo's drawings, the anger came back. But," a pause, "but I watched you this week. When you talked to him, painted with him, brushed his hair. He didn't forget you. In fact, he was waiting for you. Kids just know, don't they? What's missing?" Helena's voice trembled. "And what about you, Elias? Don't you want to stop being what's missing?" Elias thought for a moment. Then he lowered his head. "I still don't know, but it's clear Leo loves you. So," he motioned with his hand toward the inside. "I moved the paint box out of the room. It's yours now, not the guest room anymore." In that moment, Helena bowed her head and quietly cried. This wasn't forgiveness. This was the right to begin. From that day on, the rhythm in the house changed, but not all at once. Elias was still cautious. At dinner, he sometimes stayed too quiet with Helena, sometimes softened when he saw the sparkle in Leo's eyes. Helena didn't try to make up for the past. Instead, she focused on building the present. The turning point came during the art exhibit at Leo's school. On the wall of the exhibition hall, there was a painting of 3 figures. One was Leo with curly hair and a wide smile. The other was his father, Elias, with a hand on his shoulder. And the third was a woman now with a face, wavy hair, and a full smile. Below it, in Leo's handwriting, was a single sentence: "Family is something you can draw again." At that moment, Elias, standing next to Helena, reached for her hand. It wasn't full forgiveness, but a silent promise that he would walk beside her. Months passed. Helena started working with a small local art gallery. But her real work was at home, being there for Leo's breakfast, his homework, and after every nightmare, at his bedside. Elias still battled himself, but he was seeing more clearly each day how much Helena's presence had changed Leo. One morning, Leo came into the kitchen holding a colorful piece of paper. "Today is a special day," he shouted. "Mother's Day and Father's Day are too far away. So now I invented Us Day." Elias smiled. "So what do we do on Us Day?" Leo opened his arms wide. "We all eat breakfast together, then picnic, then painting together in the evening." Helena took the paper and looked at it. 3 figures holding hands. This time the lines between them weren't broken, they were thick and colorful. Elias looked at Helena, and for the first time, there wasn't the weight of the past in his eyes, but the presence of the future. "You know, sometimes this kid's smarter than me." Helena smiled. "I think smarter than both of us." By the end of the day, Leo was inside mixing colors, and Elias and Helena were quietly rocking side by side on the porch swing. The breeze was light, the air warm. But the most important thing was this: none of them were alone anymore. "Starting over isn't easy," Elias said. "No," Helena replied. "But this time, we're together." Elias nodded. "And this time, no one's turning their back." As the sky began to turn orange, Helena rested her head on Elias's shoulder. Everything they had once lost was now reshaping itself in the shadow of 3 people. And that shadow no longer carried pain alone, it carried a family, reborn. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like the video and subscribe. Because sometimes, a reunion is just the beginning.